The waiting room of the Galactic Health Consortium station, Theta 7, hummed, with the quiet efficiency that Harry had come to expect from alien technology. Holographic displays flickered across transparent walls, showing biological data in languages he couldn't begin to decipher. He sat uncomfortably in a seat designed for a species with an entirely different skeletal structure, his human frame awkwardly wedged between what appeared to be armrests meant for tentacles. Harry Chen had been traveling the outer colonies for 6 months now, working as a salvage coordinator for derelict spacecraft. The job paid well enough to ignore the occasional loneliness and the constant exposure to low-level radiation. But company policy was strict. Mandatory health screenings every quarter, no exceptions. So here he sat, the only human in a waiting room filled with beings whose evolutionary paths had taken them to places Earth's biologists could only dream of. Patient Harry Chen, human variant designation Homo sapiens sapiens, a melodious voice announced through his translator implant. Please proceed to examination bay 7. Harry stood, his joints popping after the long wait, and followed the illuminated path on the floor. The door to bay 7 dilated open with a soft hiss, revealing a stark white room filled with medical equipment that looked more like torture devices than healing instruments. And there she stood. Honey, or at least, that's what the translator rendered her name as, was a crystalline harmonist, one of the most advanced species in the known galaxy. Her body was composed of living silicate structures that refracted light into cascading rainbows. Where a human would have skin, she had latticed crystal formations that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. Her face was a smooth, multifaceted surface that somehow conveyed expression through the arrangement and intensity of light. "Good cycle, Mr. Chen," Honey said, her voice coming not from any visible mouth but from harmonic resonances within her crystalline matrix. "I am medical technician Honey of the Harmonist Collective. I will be conducting your physical evaluation today." Harry nodded, suddenly feeling very organic and fragile in the presence of such elegant alien biology. "Nice to meet you. Just Harry is fine." "Very well, just Harry," she replied, and he could swear the light patterns on her face flickered with amusement. "Please remove your upper garments and stand on the designated platform." As Harry complied, Honey moved around the examination bay with fluid grace, her crystalline appendages manipulating instruments with microscopic precision. She hummed, literally hummed, the sound coming from within her structure as she worked, adjusting scanners and calibrating sensors. "Your species fascinates me," Honey said conversationally as a holographic display materialized between them, showing Harry's body in translucent three-dimensional detail. "Humans are classified as a Class 3 carbon-based life form, yet your medical records indicate survivability parameters that exceed your classification by considerable margins." Harry watched as layers of his anatomy peeled away in the hologram, skin, muscle, organs, bones, each rendered in perfect detail. "We're tougher than we look, I guess." Indeed, Honey's light patterns shifted to a cool blue, which Harry's implant interpreted as professional curiosity. "Your skeletal density is 23% higher than baseline for your age and gravitational exposure. Your muscle fiber composition shows adaptations typically requiring generations of selective pressure, and your cellular regeneration rate." She paused, her entire body brightening. "This cannot be correct." Harry felt a flutter of concern. "What's wrong?" "Nothing is wrong, just Harry. Quite the opposite." Honey's appendages flew across her instruments, running test after test. "Your cells are repairing microdamage at a rate I've only seen in species with dedicated regenerative systems. You've been exposed to significant radiation in your work, yes. Comes with the job. Salvaging old ships means lots of decaying reactor cores and compromised shielding." "And yet," Honey continued, her excitement building, Harry could tell because she was literally glowing brighter, "your DNA shows minimal damage. In fact, the damage that does exist is being actively repaired by mechanisms that shouldn't function this efficiently in a Class 3 organism. She moved closer, her crystalline structure refracting the examination lights into dancing patterns across the walls. Tell me, just Harry, have you noticed any unusual symptoms? Accelerated healing, resistance to toxins, enhanced endurance? Harry thought back over the past months. The gash on his arm from a jagged piece of hull plating that had closed up in days instead of weeks. The time he'd accidentally ingested contaminated water on Kepler 442b and barely felt ill while his colleagues spent 3 days in medbay. The 30-hour work shift he'd pulled last month that should have left him exhausted for days. Maybe a few things, he admitted. Honey's light patterns exploded into a brilliant gold. Just Harry, I need to run additional tests. What I'm seeing here could fundamentally alter how the consortium classifies your entire species. Over the next 2 hours, Harry submitted to scan after scan. Honey drew blood samples, tissue samples, even a small bone marrow extraction that hurt less than he expected. Throughout the process, she maintained a constant stream of commentary, explaining each test and its implications. The Galactic Health Consortium uses a classification system based on biological resilience and adaptive capacity, she explained while analyzing his genetic code. Class 1 organisms are the most primitive, single-celled minimal environmental tolerance. Class 10 organisms are the apex, beings like my own species, capable of surviving in hard vacuum, resistant to radiation, with lifespans measured in millennia. And humans are Class 3, Harry said. I remember from the first contact documentation. Yes, based on initial samples from Earth, humans were categorized as moderately resilient carbon-based lifeforms with average repair mechanisms and limited environmental adaptability. Honey's lights flickered rapidly. But you, just Harry, are showing characteristics that place you firmly in Class 7 territory, perhaps even Class 8. Harry blinked. That's impossible. I'm just a regular guy from New Shanghai. I get tired, I get hurt, I definitely age. All true, Honey agreed. But you do these things while your body fights entropy at a level most species achieve only through technological augmentation. She pulled up a comparison chart showing Harry's cellular activity next to various other species. His cells glowed with activity that matched beings Harry knew were considered highly advanced. The question, Honey continued, her tone shifting to something almost reverent, is whether you are an outlier among your species, or whether humans as a whole have been dramatically underestimated. She began compiling her findings, her crystalline fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. I'm going to need to submit this to the consortium's biological review board. They'll want to examine more humans, conduct longitudinal studies. If your capabilities are even remotely typical of your species, the implications are staggering. Harry felt overwhelmed. What kind of implications? Honey turned her full attention to him, and the intensity of her focused light was almost overwhelming. Economic implications. Humans would qualify for hazardous duty assignments currently restricted to higher-class species. Social implications. Your people's standing in galactic society would shift considerably. Scientific implications. We would need to understand how a species achieves such biological efficiency without the eons of evolution my people required. She moved closer, and Harry realized with surprise that her light patterns had shifted to something his implant translated as deep respect, even admiration. But most importantly, just hairy military implications. The consortium has been monitoring increased activity from the Void Collective along the Rim territories. We've been preparing defensive protocols, but our projections showed insufficient personnel capable of surviving the conditions in those sectors. Her lights pulsed with what might have been hope. If humans can be reclassified to a higher class, your species could become our best defense against a threat we've been dreading for decades. Harry sat back down, his mind reeling. He'd come in for a routine checkup. Now he was apparently the key to reclassifying humanity and potentially involving his entire species in an interstellar conflict. "I'm just a salvage worker," he said quietly. Honey's lights softened to a warm amber. "You are just Harry, yes, but you are also a representative of humanity, fuck yeah, though I believe the proper translation is humanity's remarkable resilience." She somehow managed to convey a smile through light alone. "Your species has a saying, I believe. We didn't know it was impossible, so we did it anyway." Harry couldn't help but laugh, something like that. "Then let me ask you, just Harry," Honey said, her voice harmonizing with an undertone of seriousness. "If your species is reclassified, if you are called upon to help defend the consortium against existential threats, what will humanity say?" Harry thought of Earth, of the colonies spreading across the stars, of the millions of humans who were probably just as unreasonably resilient as he was without even realizing it. He thought of the way humanity had clawed its way up from the caves to the stars, surviving ice ages and plagues and wars and their own worst impulses. He smiled. "I think we'd say, when do we start?" Honey's entire crystalline structure erupted in brilliant, cascading light, a display Harry's implant interpreted as joy mixed with relief and fierce determination. "Then let us begin the reclassification process," she said. "And just Harry, welcome to Class 7. Humanity has earned it." As Harry left the examination bay hours later, his head still spinning with the implications of what had happened, he passed a new group of humans in the waiting room, workers from other salvage crews, colonists, traders. They looked ordinary, unremarkable. But Harry knew better now. Each one of them was carrying inside them the same relentless, stubborn biology that refused to quit, that adapted and overcame, and survived against odds that would fell supposedly superior species. The checkup he dreaded had turned into something far more significant. Honey hadn't just examined him, she'd recognized humanity for what it truly was. And the galaxy would never look at humans quite the same way again.